want to welcome you all here this morning. We're here to talk about the City of Bastrop Main Street project, and I'll go over the project parameters, but basically it's from South Pine Street to Farm Street. This project is being funded by the Bastrop Economic Development Corporation, and Mr. Dave Quinn, Executive Director from BEDC, here this morning. And the oversight of the design and construction will be administered by the city in coordination with the Bastrop Economic Development Corporation. Sir, yes.
Could you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Mike Talbot. I'm the city manager. And I have various staff members here. I have project engineer, Mr. Jim Cooper, here this morning with me as well. Trey Joe, our Director of Public Works, and interpreting Brown, our city attorney. Right. Again, the scope of the work will be a concrete street from South of Pine Street to Farm Street. A water line needs to be replaced from Chestnut Street to Pine Street, and there'll be new sidewalks installed from South of Pine Street to Spring Street. This is Pine Street right here. This is Main Street going north. Now, you're going to ask, what's the difference in the colored lines here? The red has been surveyed out to be public right-of-way, and the yellow is private. So, basically, as we go through the scope of the project, overall, the sidewalks are split half and half. Half public and half private. And I'll talk about that, what that means, and what we're going to have to resolve that. Again, this is carrying it up to the intersection of Chestnut and Spring. This is the intersection of Main Street and Chestnut. This was put in back in 2001 or 2002. This will remain. These brick crossings, all of that work will remain. Nothing will be touched there. The only thing that will be touched is when TxDOT has a project to remill Chestnut Street. They'll skip over here and remill this and then jump over. And as I stated earlier, the sidewalks will end here on Spring Street, but the street will be improved all the way down to Farm Street. We're proposing that the sequence of construction be done in 4 phases. I'll show you pictures of that in just a moment. Let's go with that first. This is looking down Chestnut Street south. The first phase will be to remove the sidewalk from here to an approximate location here, and then jump over and do the same thing over on this side, and then to do one lane and then the other lane. The rationale behind that is that will allow for one lane of traffic to always be open, and sometimes two. Rather than ripping out the whole thing, we're trying to keep traffic flowing throughout the course of the project. Secondly, we're going to try to encourage that the work be done at night. And the same thing on the other side of the street, the same approach, where one side and the other side, and then one lane and another lane. And then, for example, we're going to try to coordinate with the contractor to, let's say, from this corner rip off this section here of the sidewalk in this phase 1, or this phase over here. Before he moves over and starts ripping out over here, he'll replace this, then start up the next segments. So we're going to try to do it in segments where it makes sense to break the line, and it'll average probably anywhere from 150 linear feet to 200 linear feet. And then to go right back and do the steel work and get all right poured concrete, there'll be temporary lights, planks put into the front doors, so people at least can get access to the front doors. But hopefully, it will be done within a week's time. The segment will be done hopefully in a week's time. That's what we're shooting for. And then from here, all that's going to be done is I'll go over here and rip outside and go over here. From this is Spring Street, this is Farm Street, this is going to be mine. Okay? The medians, we're going to look at. There's been issues about how the medians have been installed. We're going to look at the design of the median. The step or the gap here, from here to the median, is going to be flooded or covered with concrete. And there's going to be a storm drain put underneath the curb, so that like when water comes down and hits one and go in, then water will go down and get one in. So there no longer will be a gap between the island and the sidewalk. As part of this project, we're doing in tandem is the LED improvements, which is predicated upon the purchasing of the advertising building. The city's in negotiations with Cox Media. We're projecting to try to wrap up negotiations sometime around the 1st of June. We agreed on many issues, but there's still a few issues that remain outstanding for us to move forward. And this is ultimately one of the designs that we put together for LED, but the goal is to, at a minimum, have the advertiser knocked down and have at least parking improvements, temporary if necessary, before the Main Street project starts. So there will be good circular additional parking back here. Okay. And here's some layouts of some various sidewalks. This is Chestnut Street. This is what the board had envisioned. A continuation of the Economic Development Corporation Board had envisioned in putting new sidewalks in. If that up to them, whether there'll be a change to that, I'm just following what they asked me to do. Okay? We did have an ADA inspector out here last week because a lot of questions have arisen about this step right here and the step up. And what are you going to do? Well, the ADA inspector told us if we get into that step and try to make that ADA compliant, then the whole building has to be ADA compliant. So we don't want to do that and cause that expense. In some cases, looking at the sidewalks up and down Main Street, we feel like we can shape the concrete in a manner that it will pretty much close that gap from the bottom of the concrete to the top of your door plate. But in some cases, there's still going to be a little bit of a jump. To offset that, we're proposing to help out by putting some steps at various locations to get up in there. And there's different ways that we can do it. We'll get into that when we get into the final design, but here's what we're looking at. Now you can see here on this picture, this project, they were able to get the concrete right up to the door plate. As long as we maintain the slope from here to here at about 2% grade, then we'll be okay and we'll meet ADA requirements. Anything more than 2% slope, that's going to take it out of ADA requirements based upon our review with the inspector. And there are going to be some instances where we'll be able to keep right side against the building. We are going to put some additional trees in, along especially on the north side, because trees are, I feel like that has beauty to downtown. But we're going to put trees in there, not going to put big roots in there 10 years from now. And then this is just another look at another shape of sidewalks. This is an island that was put in Luling. This island pretty much took up the entire, so they lost the parking space to this. But I just wanted to show you this. This is what I was talking about. This is going to go away. This is going to be plugged. We're going to look at the radius turning, and then possibly we might want to put some planters out there afterwards, based upon what it looks like. The status is we are now ready to move in, and let's go back to one of the slides of the survey. Back and forth. Back. Keep going. Right, this is good. Again, as I said, this is a depiction of the red illustrates public, the yellow indicates, I'm sorry, yellow is public, red is private. And as you can see, it's pretty well split over here. It's not quite as bad, but pretty much throughout the parameters of the project, this is what we're looking at. What we're going to be asking property owners for is an access easement, like from this property owner from here to here. And that access easement will allow us to come in there and remove that sidewalk so that we can replace the whole sidewalk. And we have all the easement documents prepared for everyone up and down Main Street from just a little bit past Pine all the way down to Spring Street. We hope to obtain all of these by no later than the end of August, because we would like to kick off construction January 1, 2015. And so our focus from now until August will be working with the property owners and getting those access easements for this project. I talked about the visit by the registered accessibility specialist. The design will have to be reviewed by accessibility inspector prior to construction to demonstrate that we have met all ADA requirements out in the public area. And then after the work is complete, the inspector will have to come back and make sure that we install it in accordance with the plans and specifications that we submitted. And we also have to submit it for the historical review for their comments and suggestions. If we reach the goal of 75% of the property owners by September 1st, we'll move forward with the design and everything that needs to be done to move the project forward. But I feel like at least we're going to have to know with some degree of comfort that we've got the majority of the property owners supporting what needs to be done with the easements to allow us to remove the sidewalk. Again, this project is funded by the Bastrop Economic Development Corporation. Right now, the budget stands at $800,000. We are going to be applying to the Main Street, Texas Main Street Association. They have grants for Main Street projects. We would be eligible potentially up to $150,000. We're going to apply for that just in case the project comes in more. And if it doesn't, then we can use that for some aesthetic improvements that we have not been able to fund.
Mike, do you know if Chestnut will be finished, Texas will be finished for that turn lane, wasn't it?
Yes. This current schedule for Chestnut Street is to begin the first week in June and be complete by June 22nd. That's what they told me. Now, that's been changing. It was supposed to be February, that was March, and our last meeting we had was June. But that's an overview of the project, how we're approaching it, and we're now at a point where to keep it moving is to get the easements, and simultaneously to acquire the advertising building. The layout that you saw may not what you may initially see there, but we want to make sure that we got parking back there during construction, and then after construction, we'll come back and reconstruct that parking lot back there.
Like you probably mentioned this, but are they going to take down the overhead wires back in that parking lot area?
Everything's going to be underground. All these buildings are underground. Yes. And so we're trying to increase the parking while at the same time coordinate this project. So we got several things going in tandem here. Negotiations with tax media, meeting we do with property owners or businesses, and I know some of you rent from property owners, so we'll be asking for your assistance to get in touch with them. And based upon the Chestnut Street project, it took us at least that long to get access easement across some of the properties when we put the sidewalks up on Chestnut Street. Yes, sir.
Do the owners have a financial obligation? Do they have
No, there's no financial obligation. All we're asking for is the access easement to put the sidewalk in. Yes, sir.
You anticipate starting January 1. How long do you anticipate the project?
Well, sometimes we're projecting 4 to 6 months, David, but you never know what you're going to get into when you get out there. And some unforeseen things that arise. We're going to try to, we know that there's various events downtown. We're going to try to coordinate, that's why we made it Farm Street first, and that way they can demobilize, Fest and go on, then we'll move back in and start, because the next major would be Veterans Day. Now, that means that a few parades may have to go down a different route, but we're trying to work around the major events that are annually scheduled.
Mike, Charles Simon, 10,007 Main Street. So the Plum Street Park, has that been into the phasing when you go side to side, changing over lanes and construction?
No, what's that
The
again?
Plum Street Park on Main Street, how's that fit into the construction phase?
We're not going to change the parking layout. The parking will remain as it is right now.
And it stays open all the time during construction?
Well, there's going to be times when segments are going to be probably not accessible. But that's what we're trying to do in phases. And it'll probably be when the street is put back in, because of the way that we're proposing. When we get done here, let's say we start over here, we get done here, and we flip over here, probably we'll be able to keep it open for that time. Of course, not here. Then, when this is done, we'll flip over here. Again, that's where you'll lose the parking again. That's why we're going again one lane at a time. Then when we flip over here, this side will be off. So there's going to be periods of time when it will be locked. Again, we're trying to sequence the sidewalk where it makes sense. Like, you got 1, 2, maybe this would be a good stopping point right here, and then rip that up, put that back, and then start the next. But now when the street comes in, the contractor will probably want to rip the street up all at one time. And again, but there'll be at least one-way traffic to keep traffic available throughout the whole project.
So you're not, through the whole thing, you're not changing the configuration. The
No.
sidewalks will be the same way, parking will be the same thing,
Right.
everything.
Right. The only thing that may change a little bit is reconfiguring and knocking these off right here. That's how they can swing it.
Mike, we got some note about how we should be doing something happening there. Is there anything else?
And I think we've done all the improvements that we have scheduled.
Okay.
We've already done,
It says we need to clean it up, and I just didn't know if some.
I think there was,
how it was gonna be
I think the Main Street program is having a cleanup LED, Saturday. I think that's what you got on the side.
Okay, it's not in anticipation of this.
No, no. Totally separate project.
I have a question about, the support posts for the awnings that are out on the sidewalk. How do you work around it?
Go ahead, Gene, if you want to.
No, I'll show a picture and you can talk.
It's been my experience,
You can see how.
they'll put something around there to hold it in place, and then it'll vary from awning to awning, depending upon what the construction of the awning is. But the intent is not to remove the awning. Now, I've done 3 downtown sidewalk projects. There just may be a case where we may have to put a new awning back underneath there because the condition of the existing awning may not be a durability because of wear and tear, and so it's just going to be on a case-by-case basis. They may build a temporary wood platform to hold it up, or again, they may come in and replace it with a new awning, or they may put some kind of structure on it. But we will coordinate that. That's why we'll be doing it in phases, and we'll coordinate that with the property and business owners at the time of construction. It's just kind of hard to say exactly which ones are going to be affected until we got it, but the intent is to leave the awnings there in most cases. Every place possible where we can leave the existing awning, that's what we're going to do. Yes, ma'am.
If you're doing it in segments, can you anticipate how long an individual building would not have accessibility to their front door?
Well, like let's say we do a 150 foot or 200 foot section, they'll come in that night and they'll rip it out. They'll put planking up to your door, so your door will still have access. Then they may come back the next night and put the ironwork in, and that may take a couple of days. And then the last will be pouring the concrete. That there'll be maybe 1 or 2 days of pouring the concrete. We don't want anybody walking on concrete that you would not have access to the building. Now, that's another reason on the LED side, we're trying to get the advertising removed, because that pretty much gives access to the rear of the buildings on LED. And looking at an aerial photo of LED, it looks like there's accessibility to all buildings. Alley A has access to the rear of the building, and Alley B across the street has access to the rear buildings. And been talking with Nancy about encouraging what we did in the first city I worked at is have backdoor entrance sales or backdoor entrance projects or whatever to encourage as much traffic goes through the back, because there's just no way I can say that you'll have access through the front door for all time, because when we pour the concrete back in, you'll be out these 2 days.
What about the contractors working on weekends or, like Sunday, Monday, Tuesdays when retail are typically light? Will there be any emphasis on putting them specifically to avoid busy days? And
That's why we're having this meeting. That's why we're having this meeting today. That's a very good suggestion. It's good to know that Monday is a slower day. We can certainly encourage that as part of our bid specification.
Retail and restaurants have different.
Right. So that's why, again, we're getting back to the 4 phases, try to keep access at all times, some type of access at all times during the course of the project.
I have an ally question. I live at 104 Jefferson.
behind the Jenkins Law Firm. And between the Jenkins Law Firm on Jefferson and Con Street, there is an insurance company that has painted their house school bus yellow with red trim, and the one next door to it is purple. Why do we not have in place an oversight committee or some standards for the historical district so eyesores like this can't happen?
Ma'am, we just don't have an ordinance in effect that controls that kind of activity.
Who would write an ordinance like that?
The city, it would go to the Historic Landmark Commission and then on to the council. Here, here. And it's an incident like that in one of the communities, city manager, that caused the historical district to be created to control those kind of items. Our historical ordinance just doesn't go that far. Any other questions? We have all the easements back there. If you're so inclined to sign now or take them with you, we would encourage that because, again, that is the critical pivotal point from this point going forward is getting those easements. And we really need your assistance in getting that because we really would like to get the January 2015 deadline of starting construction.
We also have coffee back here. If you want to think of some more questions, I've got coffee back there.
Yes, sir.
What happens if the owner walks and doesn't give you access? You just skip the sidewalk and he has no track sidewalk?
We'll have to see how many do that. If there's just one property owner, we'll probably be forced into skipping that one section, which is not the most desirable. That's probably going to be a decision between the Economic Development Corporation and the city council as to what to do. That's probably the decision I will be making, sir.
There's some, some sort of flag, domain or something?
We can do that. We can go by what we call restricted easements, and the public can walk over that, those sidewalks. But that, all that will do will significantly delay the project. And if we get into that, I wouldn't even be able to begin to project when this project will start. All right. We'll be having various updates throughout the next few months to let you know how we're doing. But now we need your help in getting those easements. And this project has come a long way from the first time the BEDC board discussed that they were just going to do a fog seal out there on Main Street and ended up with what we're talking about today. So the Economic Development Corporation is making a big investment in the downtown with this project. Okay. Thank you for coming this morning.
Thank you.
I have a problem.